guys, I'm Laura Vitale, and on this episode of Laura in the Kitchen, I want to share with you how to make a really simple, easy, and comforting chicken and wild rice soup. It's creamy, it's delicious, it's full of flavor, it's a one-pot wonder, of course, and it's perfect for this time of year when it's still so bitter cold here in Jersey or on the East Coast. But, you know, it's just delicious any time of year, but extra delicious right now. The list of ingredients is very short and sweet, but it's all the right ones. You've got your usual soup suspects here. You've got your carrots, celery, onion. I've also got garlic and some baby bella mushrooms that I have just chopped. I've got some fresh thyme. I've also got, this is a combination of long grain rice and brown rice. It's got a little bit of bouillon powder mixed in it. This is what I find in my local grocery store, but just wild rice would work. It works perfectly here, but this happens to be what I find, and it's delicious. So I'm using that. I've got a combination of milk and chicken stock here. You'll also need some chicken breast, a little bit of flour, salt and pepper, and some butter, and a little bit of light olive oil or like a flavorless oil. In this big heavy bottomed pot, I've got some light olive oil preheating over about medium heat, and to it I'm going to add my chicken, and I'm going to season this with salt and pepper. Now, I'm using chicken breast here because it works really well. It's going to cook for about an hour, so it's going to get really tender and delicious, but chicken thighs would work even better, and they're half the price, twice the flavor. But chicken breast, if I have it on hand, that's typically what I tend to use. That's typically what I have on hand, I should say, so that's what I tend to use. But chicken thighs, like I said, would be perfect. I'm going to let those sear, develop a little bit of color, and then I'm going to take these out to a clean plate and move forward. That looks good enough. Remove the chicken. Now obviously this is going to get a lot more cooking, and some pieces might not be all the way cooked through yet, but that's fine. You just need a little bit of color because color makes it better. Am I right or am I right? Now I still have a little bit of, oopsies. I still have a little bit of cooking oil, oopsies, I lost one, in the bottom of the pan, but this is a time where I want to add a good amount of butter. I know, don't let it scare you, but you know, this soup will feed a good 8 people. I mean, it makes a lot. And I'm also going to add my veggies. I'm going to let this cook for a good 10 minutes or until the veggies really sweat down, develop a little color, you know, just get that flavor going. Oh, it's going to be so good. And like I said, this really will feed a crowd. But I want to just give you a big tip. When you add starch, like potatoes, like usually like rice or pasta to a soup, you know that as it sits in the fridge, that starch will swell and it will thicken the soup a lot. So if you're going to make a big pot of this, but you don't want to serve it all today, what I would do is I would cook the wild rice separately and scale back on the cooking liquid by a couple of cups. That way you can add your cooked wild rice. You can reheat your bowl, you know, your soup, add a scoop of your cooked wild rice to it and eat that throughout the week, and you don't have a really, you know, swollen thick soup that you have to reheat and keep adding liquid to it throughout the week. So I'm just going to let these cook, and I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Veggies look good. I'm going to add a little bit of flour now. You don't need a lot, but it kind of helps thicken the soup just a little bit and gives you a really creamy, velvety, delicious result. And now we're going to add the chicken back in with any of its juices I've collected. I've also seasoned my veggies, oopsies, with some salt and pepper. And now we're going to add in the stock and milk mixture. Good. Give that a really good stir. And you're going to add in your fresh thyme. Now what you're going to do is rewind. My wild rice mixture, it takes about 25 minutes to cook. But I want the soup, my base, to cook for about 40 minutes before I add that to it, because in total I really want this to simmer for a good hour. So I'm going to bring this to a boil, pop the lid on, and let it simmer for about 40 minutes, and then I will show you what it looks like before we add in the rice. But you're going to have to really check the rice you're using to make sure that you're giving it plenty of cooking time, but in total your soup should simmer for about an hour. All right, it's been about 40 minutes. It's been simmering. Now I'm going to add the rice, and this is gonna take another 20 minutes or so. Like not now, like I said, my daughter does that. Me, that's her new thing. When she wants to say a word and it's not coming out, she goes like mother, like daughter. Now, as I mentioned, the wild rice that I'm using is a blend that I purchased at my local grocery store that's got long grain rice and wild rice and some seasoning in there. It's kind of like a powdered bouillon cube. It is really delicious, but if you can't find it, just regular wild rice works perfectly. You will just have to tailor the cooking time according to the kind that you're getting. And I know a lot of them take about 40 minutes to cook, so just keep an eye on that, and that way you'll know and you won't overcook it or undercook it. So what I'm gonna do now is keep my eye on this and let it simmer until the rice is done. Getting rid of the sprigs of thyme. This is done, and look how gorgeous and thick and delicious. It's not thick enough to be a stew, but it's not as thin as like a brothy soup. It's creamy, it's delicious, and if you want to make it even a little bit more creamy and indulging, you can add about 4 ounces of softened cream cheese at the very end, really to kick up that creamy, delicious yumminess of the soup. But this is perfect like this, and I think adding just a couple of tablespoons of flour really helps get that really creamy consistency without having to add the cream cheese. But hey, you're the boss, applesauce. You do you. The rice is so lovely and nutty, and it's got such good texture. The flavors of the soup is actually incredible. Like, it's so delicious. There are no words for it. It's just, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just full of flavor. The mushrooms make it really just rich. Do you know what I mean? Chicken super tender. I mean, it is delight in a pot. Go to laurainthekitchen.com, get the written recipe. I hope that you've enjoyed spending time with me. I promise you, this will be a new go-to soup for you because it's that easy, but that delicious. I'll see you next time. Bye.